What's going on, Watts? How are you?
I'm good, man. It's been a hectic couple days, honestly, with having to reset up. Obviously, everyone that's watching, this is a whole new area of the building that we're in. It's not the traditional studio that we're in.
Yeah. I like that studio, but I think it was a little bit of work on the post-production side for you. So
Yeah, and a lot of people actually don't know this, but that studio was it was in a loft, and it wasn't actually like in an enclosed room in this building. And there's a lot of foot traffic. This is it's a shared space with like a lot of different creatives in here. And just when you're doing post production and trying to edit out all the doors slamming and the background talking, it's really, really hard. So this should be a lot better for that.
absolutely, I agree. I think we're literally in the closet here.
Literally.
And actually with us today, we have the founders of VALAS LA.
What's going on, everybody?
Good to have you guys here.
Hi, I'm Karina Samran.
I'm Kenny Viagra. So Karina is the brainchild and the creator of VALAS Los Angeles. I'm her brother and partner and owner of VALAS Los Angeles as well.
Yes.
So brother sister duo.
Yes.
Absolutely.
How's that? Because you always tell you don't start a business with your wife, but I've never heard anything about brother and sister. How's that relationship?
I think we have we both respect each other. So he lets me do my thing and I let him do his thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when it comes to you talk about, respecting each other, and obviously you probably have different roles within, how would you guys define, obviously as a startup, I know it can be quite hectic and you probably wear many hats, but on the day-to-day, what are your responsibilities versus, Kenny's?
So back to working with brother and sister, I think just from the gates, we both had a very clear understanding of the roles that we're playing, right? So with Karina, obviously her being her vision and her brand and her baby, I've always gave her the creative side of things, and when it came to certain things as hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I've always given her my input in regards to it, and it's up to her whether she uses it or not. And for me, I was more on the operational side of things. I just got out of college and graduated in business finance. So our investor put us together and was like, hey, why don't you bring on your brother? He went to school for business, right? And that allows you to create, not have to worry about that business aspect of things, and let your brother do that and get it going. So that's what happened. And she started in 2011?
Yes, I started, I guess we're going to jump right into it. I started with bags and shoes. First shoes. And then Kenny had just graduated. So I was like, Kenny, are you able to help me? And so he's like, yeah, for sure. And then we started doing bags and everything just got serious because when you're designing, you're in a whole different world. And he's more of the organizer. Hey, Karina, okay, you want this type of leather? It's going to cost this much. Do we really need to do that? Or we can there's options now,
right.
So it just made everything legit once he came in.
And the whole leather side of it, obviously I know about this. We've talked many times, and we've hung out, had a lot of late nights, and I've been able to learn that. But that's the side of the story that I wanted to get into, because VALAS started as leather goods, right?
Yes.
And how did that transition? What was the point of the transition from leather goods into streetwear?
So we did leather goods for 8 years. That was obviously the natural starting point of where Karina wanted to go with in terms of the VALAS in the beginning, the origins of it, were bags and shoes. As all ladies love bags and shoes, I'm assuming is why she wanted to go that route. And
the reason I started,
let's see.
Yeah,
Prove was wrong.
Yes. So with the bags, I went to, I don't know if you guys been to San Isidro Ranch.
I haven't known.
It's this beautiful hotel outdoors, and they brought the check in this leather menu, and the leather was so beautiful that I was like, you know what, let me look into leather. And I worked in retail for so long, so that's how that started. Just one thing led to the other, the inspiration. So it wasn't anything I love bags and I just want to do bags. It was just one thing, and it was let me do leather. Let me look into leather. And I just Googled high-end Italian leather. And this woman popped up, and I went to her factory where she sold the leather. And I was like, wow, this is beautiful. So then I started asking them, like, who makes bags in LA? Who makes shoes? And they gave me a whole list of people.
Really?
Yes. And the woman, her name was Mary. And she told me, she's like, okay, this person is really, he's kind of rude, but he's
But
really good.
That was after though. That was after a while. Like we went through like various.
There's so
different
many
vendors.
little stories. Yeah.
You should start off with like George and like his brother and like how that whole experience was.
That was like so. So I started with the shoes, and I started finding out there was a factory in, where was it at? Sun Valley.
Yeah, it was like in the Sun Valley area.
Sun Valley. So I went to George's factory, and it was huge, and he was the only person that made last here in California. So it's the form of the shoes before you make the shoes, before you make the pattern. So I was intrigued by it, and I started making the shoes. And then he was like, you should meet my brother. He makes bags. And I'm like, really? So I went to his brother, and it's like, it's outside in the backyard. There's cats jumping everywhere.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I was like, and Kenny's like, finally he comes over. He's like, sis, I don't think this is going to be like long-term. I was like, I don't think so. So that's when I met Mary. And Mary was like, these are the people that make bags here in LA.
Okay.
This person. And one of the person was his name, Aram. And once we got there, it was like, he was very, very strict. Him and his wife, it was family owned also. He wouldn't show us the bag. He wouldn't show us his work. He just trust that I know my work. And so I was like, okay. And he was like, you guys need to have X, Y, and Z on point, because this is not on point. It's our first time. You know? And if you guys want to be serious about this, like, I suggest you do this. And him and his wife are just like militants. And we're like, whoa.
Yeah. It was definitely a first experience with us. Very stern from the beginning, very black and white. He told it what it was and told it what it is. And it was one of those things like, when you come here, like, don't waste my time type of thing. Be prepared, know what you want. That way, when you come here, you present it, and we'll make it happen for you guys.
Sure.
Because he's like, I'm a busy person, and there's a lot of people that want to sit down and meet with me and want to work with me. So if this is something that you want to do, take me seriously, and I'm going to take you seriously. And from then on out, that's how it was with any individual that we ever approached. It was like, we're bringing you the A game from the gate. That way you understand and you comprehend that we're serious about this.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's RIP to Adam. Unfortunately, he did pass away this past year. I mean, he was with us for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty much family, I was very close because it was him and his wife, and they had a son. His son was about my age, so I was just close with the family overall. But yeah, he did amazing work, man. I mean, he worked with a lot of different individuals. I mean,
Hermes, very
really
high-end brands.
The quality of work, I mean, got us into a museum. So that's a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So is that something like his son has taken over since he's passed, or no?
Unfortunately not. He went and became a lawyer. So that's the route that he wanted to go through.
Okay.
So I can't say what the direction of what they're doing with the overall manufacturing and everything that he built. Like, he would build these amazing just mechanisms to help him create the work that he was doing.
Right.
So he was like an engineer, and he came from like a science background in Armenia. And when he moved here in the 80s, that's when he put his work and the way his mind just worked into like leather goods and started manufacturing, got into that scene. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a really cool story. Yeah. So you said George was the name, right?
His name was Aram.
Or Haram, sorry.
Aram,
so
yeah.
I heard George before.
George was the shoes when I was.
Yeah.
God. Oh,
The guy with the cats.
Yeah.
The guy with
the cats. Okay.
That was his brother.
That was his brother.
George was like, he was
legit.
Yeah.
super dope. Again, like Karina says, he was one of the last manufacturers that actually created last. Like, literally his technique of creating last, like, he'd have this machine, you start off with this huge plastic thing, and he'll just shape it.
Like, if you wanted like those shoes you're wearing, he would just look at it and mold that piece of plastic to that shape.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, it's artistry.
Yeah.
Craftsmanship.
And
Yes.
and I feel like a lot of like those very special craftsman type of like things, right? Like leather goods, people that, specialize in shoes and stuff. I just feel like a lot of these things are like kind of dying. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Just because I feel like the new generation doesn't really care about it as much as like the generations, prior have.
Yeah, it's
They were all older, and they eventually sold their company and joined like this woman that bought them out.
Right.
Yeah, an American woman. And they were also Armenian.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
Okay.
They just bring it from their country and this family history to it.
Right.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the Armenians have a long history of, you know, working with leather goods. My wife is Armenian,
Okay.
and her family also was in leather goods. Her dad was a shoemaker back in Armenia, so I can relate. I think they're all, you know, all these craftsmen, you know, that came from other countries, and you know, they're getting older here now, and obviously the next generation is not really maybe as interested in that particular side of things, and so there's a drop off. So I agree. I think, you know, that generation's kind of, you know, dying out, and then
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
but thank God for creatives like you guys who are, you know, all bringing a different type of creative element to the industries that we all participate in.
100%. Yeah.
So how was that transition, right? You started with leather goods from a small detail, a menu, right? Like you basically just picked it up and decided to do that. You took that leap of faith, got into leather goods, went through all these trials and tribulations, different, you know, manufacturing partners. At what point did you decide to move from leather, which is something that you clearly, you know, had up to that point, you know, started to learn a lot about, to now going into streetwear, elevated apparel? Like, what was and how, not only what drove that decision, but how was that feeling, right? Because you're going from something that you knew to something completely different.
Right. I think it was during COVID. Kenny Sykes says, what are we going to do? Because no one's buying stuff right now. And so I told Kenny, I was like, you know what, Kenny, I don't care what we do. This is not an ego thing. I just want us to have something together and family. So if we do socks, that's what we do. So we started doing masks. And I wanted to put like a happy face. Obviously it's been done over and over, but I'm like, I want to do these type of patches because you're not able to see people smiling. Everybody look depressed. You go to the grocery store and with the mask, you were able to see like, hey, I'm smiling under this. So that's how I started. And we seen how people just wanted more and more. And we also made sweatshirts and donated to Planned Parenthood to the workers and stuff like that. And so then we seen the response and we started doing hoodies and sweatshirts, and the response again was great. So I feel like life just led us that way.
Right.
Like we were like, what do we do next? And just because of that, like being nervous about the business, sometimes you just have to like leap and do what you're supposed to do.
You got to be, with any startup or just, I mean, because we've been in it for 10 years, but we're still a very small brand, right? That's growing, especially with the pivot that we made these last couple of years. But one thing that I've learned just in our journey of having our brand and being in the trenches, you got to be nimble. You got to be fluid. You just got to go. You got to be flexible. You can't be hard-headed and be like, no, this is what I want. This is what I want. You got to be accepting, put that ego to the side, and be able to move with the opportunities that present themselves. And when the COVID situation hit, I think it was like the biggest blessing, not of what happened, but the opportunity that we saw in terms of like how the mentality just shifted. Like, okay, yes, we've been successful in doing like the leather goods, but it was never to that point where like it was like mass volume, right? And for me, I always saw the apparel and like just like the essentials and the basics as a point that were much more accessible to the masses. And for me, it's like volume. Like volume to me is where it's at, right?
Yeah.
So when this came about, we did the small capsule. It was gracias. It wasn't the gracias a la vida. It was like thank you to all like the workers that were working, right? We dropped a sweater, a shirt, and we dropped a mask before we did the smiley face mask. And people reacted to it very well. And those are the pieces that we donated with the sales. We donated a portion and we gave back to like certain hospitals and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then from that reaction, that's when the smiley face came about, and she seen the patch and she just like something just called out to her, like just gravitated towards her. And that's when we did the Gracias a la Vida collection, Thank You to Life collection. And from there, that was like the eye opener for Karina and I. And we're just like, you know what? I think this is, like she said, this is what we got to do next.
This is the way.
Yeah.
This is the way. Yeah.
So not even just a change from leather goods to like now streetwear. that was like that period for you guys was like a complete rebrand then as well?
Not a rebrand, because it's always been VALAS Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Right.
We shifted with the logo from VALAS Los Angeles to VALAS LA, but the VALAS Los Angeles, like our logo that was on all the bags and everything, is still used like on our website, on the tags.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Yeah, that's our logo. And then the VALAS LA was more like, it just seemed more marketable, you know, like, and everything is like handwritten in her style. Like, I love her handwriting. That's one thing that, like, I've always told her, like, you got beautiful handwriting. Like, if you get a thank you card from Karina, it's like, keep it. You know, it's gonna be like, it's gonna be a collector's piece down the line.
Right.
It's gonna,
I have to see that after this.
like she has, to me, she has
Pressure.
really dope handwriting. So it's just one of those things, like, it needs to be in yours. Like, original to us, it's meaningful to us. Like, you see,
good things are coming.
It's all in her handwriting.
That's all her handwriting.
So
oh, wow.
that was like, you know, when we did the logo switch, I thought it was just like super important for us. It was like, yeah, some may ever rebrand, but not so much.
Okay. Yeah.
So small stylistic changes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not complete
And
And
rebrand.
everything stayed like positive because that's where it came from, like light and love. And I think a lot of people are attracted because of that energy that we give it. Like, people gravitate to it.
You know, it's interesting because I think when you're creating a brand, you know, there's two ways to go about it, right? In your case, it wasn't even just the creation. It was like it spoke to you. It came, right? You didn't need to think about the story. The story was unfolding in front of you.
Right.
And all you did was just kind of go with that. And I think it's that intuition that you guys had that, you know, and following that and being able to pivot from something you knew for so long to now, you know, stepping into this direction and just listening to those small signs, right? Because I'm sure, you know, looking back now, you probably had no idea this is where I would be today, right?
No,
Seriously.
no.
Like, I mean, we had a dinner with somebody the other day, and we were just saying, like, I never once thought in my life that I was going to be working with my sis. Would I change it now? Would I change the direction? Absolutely not. Like, I've always had the idea of working for, you know, myself and having the ownership, and to be doing it with my sis, and for the opportunity for it to arise where she was like, Ken, why don't you come work with me and help me build out my vision and my baby? It's special. And it's special not only because we're doing really cool things and we're all really cool people, but it's just like, who else would I do it for? You know, like, for me, I'm big on family. So, like, I'm blessed and I'm grateful to be side by side with her and building something beautiful.
No, I love that.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's a really good story.
I don't think it gets better than that.
One thing I actually want to ask though, was like during the whole COVID thing, when you guys were now putting out these masks and stuff, and you'd said that you had seen like the support that people were giving you and stuff like that. How were you distributing like the masks? 'Cause you said you were donating some of them, but were you also selling them? How was that? Like, was it through a website? Were you guys in stores? How did that look?
Yeah, we launched our website 2017. So everything was done through online.
Okay.
And we've been with Traffic LA again since 2012, when we launched the very first collection back in fall 2012. So that's like family, you know. So they're very supportive of anything and everything that we do. And they accept it and like, they're like, anything you guys want, just like, we'll do it, you know, because a lot of these stores, they closed down for a while and then they opened up and they had like online sales. And then they created a very small boutique where like the shopping experience was like, you know, you had to reserve to come in and shop. And yeah, they took those few pieces and they sold, you know, there as well. And then when that next,
they wanted more.
Yeah,
more.
they seen the reaction, you know, and the price points weren't where they're at now. But yeah, people just fell in love with it, man. They just, because everything just spoke. It was everything was just about positivity, and just great energy, like Karina says. So people naturally gravitated towards it. I mean, some people with the second collection that we dropped, tourists that would come into the store, they would pick up like 12 to 16 different pieces at a time. It was like literally within like that store, we sold like 350 pieces in 1 month at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy. It's like, again, when you reflect and you look at it, like sometimes when you're in the trenches, you're just like, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? You don't really look back and like see like what you've done, you know, just like to pat on your back and like, damn, we're doing something really cool.
And it's so funny, like, it's not funny, but it's interesting, like, you know, you do bags and you do all this intricate work on things for years, and it's just like, okay, what's our story? And this just happened naturally. It's just like, it's like a little sailboat just sailed on its own, you know?
Of course.
And it's just like, it's so cool to see, like, wow, trucker hats. Okay, I get it, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
So like during that phase, did you just start seeing stuff kind of like people out in the streets wearing it? Were people like tagging you on social media? What were you getting for like the vibes from the people that were actually like wearing your stuff?
All of the above.
All of the above?
Like, I'm driving on Beverly and I see this guy crossing the street wearing one of the hats. I'm like, I just like kind of froze.
Surreal.
I'm like,
It is.
oh my God, he's wearing our hat. So little things like that is so exciting.
Sure.
You know? Like when you see a normal person on the streets, I mean, it's a blessing to see a celebrity or a ball player wearing the stuff. But when it's just a normal person, it's like, it takes you by shock. You're like, whoa.
Like
Yeah,
that's my stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's like, because you know, with Instagram and social media, people tag you. So like, our friends are tagging us. Our friends are sending us photo. Friends are sending like people in the strip club wearing our stuff. You got Moneybag Yo popping champagne with a VALAS on his back. So it's like for us, like, yeah, we had that, but it wasn't at the volume that we're seeing it now. You know, like we've been on Beyonce, like Lady Gaga, Diddy, Bieber, throughout that duration of the first 8 years of VALAS with the bags, but it wasn't like how it is now. Like she says, now it's like the common person walking down the street. She's in the gym, she'll see someone with the trucker, you know, like you see it on athletes. You see it like just being tagged through Instagram, and it's something really cool and special, man.
I mean, that's where I see it the most is like with athletes,
Yes.
because like the NBA is like they're masters at marketing, like what the players come in wearing. You know, there's accounts that are dedicated to that and they showcase that.
Right.
And just seeing like, you know, knowing you and like being able to call you a friend, I'll be like scrolling through there and it's just like someone's showing up to the game like wearing a hat or a shirt and you're like, oh my God, like that's like it's a pretty like incredible thing. And like, that's just from me. Like I'm not even part of like the brand, but I can only imagine like what that makes you feel as like a creative that like has made that.
Right. I think it makes us feel like blessed and thankful and that we are going the right way and that this journey is it's good. You know, it's a blessing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Validation,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Validates all the last 10 years of work that you've from leather to where you're at today.
Man, it's been a journey.
Full circle.
Yes. I feel like it's like finally we're like, okay, the ice on the ceiling is coming off.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, there's
right.
days, there's weeks. Sometimes you're like, man, like, is this going to pay off? Is this going to pay off? Because it's time you can't get back. That's the reality of it, you know? And now it's like, I see the light at the tunnel. Like, I see it's coming up. And it's for like those first X amount of years. It's like, man, when, you know, when? Because it's something that obviously if you work hard for it and you're working for it, it's something that you ask, right, within yourself. And like, is this going to pay off? Is this going to pay off? And up until like last year, I felt like I see it now. I see the bigger picture.
Right.
I see everything coming. The opportunities are coming. And I'm just thankful that we never gave up and just kept it going.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met an entrepreneur who didn't ask themselves that same question.
Yeah.
I think it's normal for everyone in everything that we do, right? It's just going to work. Is that going to work? So back to the creative side, I'm really curious to know what do you pull inspiration from? How do you come up with the concepts, the artwork? Take me through the process, right? How long does it take? Is it something that happens rather quickly, or is there, what goes on in your head when you come up with these things?
I think it has to do with a lot of emotions. So I'm really inspired by like the 60s, the 70s, all the festivals, like Love and Peace, Happy Face, Good Things Are Coming. Like I want to make sure that it reminds me too that life is beautiful, and like I went to a store and the girl was really rude to me. And then, naturally you kind of want to snap back, but I just thought like, you know what? I have a brand that is positive. So I asked her, I said, how's your day going? And her whole demeanor changed. She was like, I'm fine. Thank you so much. And that made me feel like, okay, VALAS is a reminder for me too, to be positive to others, like be inspired and inspire others too. So that whole thing, the whole inspiration comes from that, just being positive and like festivals and happy, and with all the darkness that we were going through before and still are going through.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
a shirt or a hoodie or a hat, that moment you'll walk by someone and be like, oh, okay, they're cool. It's this, it's
Right.
a smiley face.
Yeah.
It's just a little sprinkle of positivity out there in the world.
I love it. I love it. And I feel like all your designs do reflect that,
Mm-hmm.
especially the one Kenny's wearing right now. This definitely gives me happy vibes.
It
Very
does.
resort festival.
Yes. Like
Was
this
that-
one, it says like, I'm a Martian. And
Okay.
it's like sometimes you feel like you don't belong, and it's okay to feel like that
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we're all different, but we're all in it together.
I love the
Yeah.
messaging. I love that you guys embrace that in what you put out. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate and resonate with it. And you probably get so many messages from people who, who read these things and it just hits them differently, right? You never know what someone's going through. Like you
Yes.
said, the lady at the store, right? Maybe she was going through a rough time, and it's hard to be sympathetic sometimes, but the fact that you were able to remind yourself and provide that positivity and maybe change your whole day around, right, through that question. Do you get people who message you and just kind of share these type of stories with you, and like, any experiences like that?
What about the dog?
That's the first one that I thought about.
Well, this one is like, because it was so cool. This lady just wrote a whole thing, and she's a client of ours. And she's like, I was wearing your hoodie, and she's like, this dog attacked me, and your hoodie saved me because of the thickness of it.
No way.
Yes, and we're like, what? And they like the ambulance came, and they told her, you're so lucky because the sweater was thick, so
Yeah.
the dog wasn't able to get to her veins.
Wow.
But
That's-
like little things like that. Because what is the weight on the hoodie? Like
It's 26 ounces.
26, yeah.
26 ounces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Yeah.
It's nice quality. Good
Yeah.
stuff. No, all your stuff is great. I love the chenille patches that you guys put on a lot of your pieces.
Yeah, it's I don't think we intended for Chanel patches to be like the thing that people resonate or identify as VALAS.
Yeah.
And that in itself kind of just took its own life. So now anytime someone sees like a Chanel patch or like a smiley face, people always like, is this VALAS? Is this VALAS? But that's the first thing people, it's like they see it and they're like, oh my God, the quality of the patch is like beautiful. It's amazing. Like it's the best. And so it's something that we just like, you know what? Listen, and we're like, okay, people like this. Let's apply it to like what the core and the DNA of the brand is, So it's like we try to implement the Chanel, make it ours. So it's just like finding ways to incorporate that, and whether it's like a trucker hat, whether it's like pants necks, or like, if we were doing a collab with like a shoe company, like how do we incorporate the Chanel? Because that's what people identify VALAS with.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Out of all the pieces that you guys have, I've seen the jackets and the shirts and the hats. What do you think is like the most popular item that you guys have in the brand?
I think I would say hats.
The
right?
hats?
yeah, the trucker hats for sure.
Yeah.
Man. Like, yeah, you see those on everybody. Because again, it's like low hanging fruit, right? It's the most accessible piece, but it's something that could be worn on a daily as well.
Totally.
And I'm big on like the perfect cut, perfect height on a hat, and I think we did that. We found like a good fitting hat,
Mhm.
and it's something that could be worn from like if you have a little head to like a bigger head. It just sits well. Like it's mid profile.
And
And
they're
I-
all cut and sew
yeah.
also. Like,
Oh, are they really?
yeah, they're all cut and sewn in
yeah.
LA. Yep.
Oh,
yep,
wow.
Yep.
Downtown LA.
Wow.
Mhm.
So like
Find anything there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's
yeah,
a
people
lot
love
of-
them. People like they buy every certain individuals that buy every single one that comes out. So it's for sure that, and then from there I would have to say the hoodies and the bowlers are definitely having a life of their own. At the moment.
Right, right.
Yes.
So the hat's almost like collectibles at this point.
Yeah, I mean once they're done, they're done.
So you don't bring anything back.
Nope, not right now. You
Oh,
might see a
really?
patch like this patch was done last year for a spring summer hoodie, and it just went super well with this tie-dye bowl that I'm wearing right now.
Yep.
So is it something like we're reproducing the patch for
The
this shirt?
first time we're repeating that.
Yeah.
But the actual final piece, you don't restock or anything like that.
No.
No.
So these are like NFTs. They're unique. They never come
Wow.
back.
Is there like a
On to the next, right?
Yeah.
is there like a big
Well, no, that wouldn't be good.
is there a big resale business then with the old stuff because of that?
I wouldn't say yes at the moment. I think we're still kind of like getting to that point where we're still building up the clientele. Like a lot of we have a lot of returning customers, but we're not at that point where it's just like it just sells out right away. You know, it still takes a little time for us to sell out in like the stores and stuff.
Right. No, but I mean like the resale stuff of like your pieces that, because when they're gone, they're gone. So like, do you find like a lot of people that are like flipping secondhand stuff from like old collections and stuff like that?
We do see it like on the real and stuff like that and on eBay, but it's not selling over like retail.
Oh,
like
okay.
I guess they got flippers too.
Yeah. Well, no, because you know the flipping
flippers.
games is really prevalent like in clothes and fashion and stuff like that. And that's why I wanted to ask that. I was really curious. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get there though.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of getting there, what's the future look like? What are you guys excited about from a collection standpoint, from a category expansion potentially, distribution? What are some things that excite you about the future of VALAS?
I think adding more units, adding more women's stuff, because right now it's unisex. So we'll do, for example, the shirt that Kenny's wearing. And the last collection, I was like, we need to cut it for the girls because the girls want to show, they want short now. So we cut a lot of the unisex for the women, and it has done really well. So we're excited to add more women pieces. We're also excited to expand to other stores, department stores, out of the country. And in the future, once everything is set up, having our own store would be amazing.
Where do you envision that store being?
I think it would be great to start in LA because it's a LA-based brand.
Yeah, it's the home.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Melrose.
You know how LA changes, so you would have to ask me that in a few years. Yes. But in Los Angeles, and from there, I mean, it would be amazing to have something like in London, in the Middle East, in Japan. We love Japan so much. So a little bit here and there.
That's actually one thing I wanted to ask. What's the presence like for VALAS overseas?
It's minimal at the moment. I started getting a lot of orders from Europe as well.
Have you?
Yeah. So right now, like it's very like a lot of the orders come in from like the States, Cali, definitely Florida, New York areas. You'll see some. Actually, we get a lot from Texas as well. Then you'll see some like in the northern like Midwest area as well.
Okay.
But definitely like Florida vibes, New York rocks with us a lot, California for sure, and like Texas. And then you'll get those few pieces coming in from like London, send a few out to like Amsterdam, Switzerland. So it started to get to that point. We've been on a few movies as well, and that's where like the overseas orders come in.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen you guys in the Netflix movie with was Jonah Hill?
Yeah, You People, and then we're in the one with Mark Wahlberg and Kevin Hart this past summer. And that's actually like Karina is very curious to know like how'd you come about like VALAS? Like how'd you know about it? How'd you find out the website?
I know I get it. He's like, sis, like people like it. Like
so like I this guy had a place to order, I think it was through the Netherlands or somewhere up there. And he had reached out and then I reached back out to him and I was like, just out of curiosity, how did you come across the brand? And he sends me a screenshot of the movie. He's like, man, I was watching this movie with Matt Weber and I fell in love with the hat and I had to have it. So I started researching it. And luckily I found you guys and I placed the order right away. He was so excited that he got his hat. Like it obviously took a little longer than a week for him to get it, but he was just so enthused to finally have this piece that he fell in love with through like movies,
Sure.
And just pop culture in itself. It's like, that's what I was telling him. We got to find ways to get involved with pop culture. Like we've been in movies. We've been in a lot of different like music videos. We've been like on set with Maluma when he performed for the Latin Billboard.
Always shows us love. Like always buys our stuff.
And now, we're in the art scene through like the digital wearables that we're doing with the tuna. So that's like the art. So it's just like, how do we get more presence within every avenue? That way you're coming across a lot more eyes,
Of course.
Absolutely. And I do want to talk about the digital wearables. Before we do that, I'm just curious, like, how do you guys, and not to put you in like a category, right? But what is like the best, most accurate description of your brand? Are you elevated streetwear? Are you high fashion? Or are you a mix of those two worlds, right? Because from like a price perspective, I think you can sit on that higher end, right? So just curious to hear it from you both.
I think it's a mixture of both, because everything it is cut and sew.
Yeah.
So it's like streetwear meets ready to wear high end kind of thing. That's how I see it. What about?
Yeah, I think it is on like on a higher. I mean, with the basics, right? It's like higher street and higher essentials, and then we do have the flexibility of taking it to where we want to take it. You know, because I feel like we have through VALAS, we've had pieces that have sold for like 3,500. I mean, there's certain pieces that sold for like 20,000 in certain stores, right? When we're doing like alligator goods and everything else like that. So I think because we've had that history within the VALAS range of price points, I think we can mix it up a bit. And the good thing is, like, because everything is produced here in LA, we have the flexibility in terms of like the type of numbers that we want to do.
Right.
So if we wanted to just do, let's say let's do like a dozen varsity coats, test them out, put them at a price point of like 2,500 to see where it's at. We have certain customers that are very loyal that just buy anything and everything VALAS that we put out. So we know it could work. So I think in terms of like what Joel's asking, I think we can be like a high-end ready-to-wear brand from where we sit at now, which is just like high-end streetwear, but we still have that. Like the boulder sets, I wouldn't call streetwear. You know?
Right. Yeah, and that's why I asked,
Yeah.
right? Like, kind of wanted to get your opinion on how you see yourselves, and so what are some brands, right, that inspire you, not just creatively, but maybe through their mission and things that they've done, and they don't have to be large brands; they could be emerging. I'm just curious to know.
I think it's a mixture. What I'm inspired by for brands, like we knew Rigi from Rude personally, and just to see his growth and how he believed in himself more than anything, and his network skills, that inspires me a lot. Like I'm like, wow, this kid came from LA, and look what he's doing. So that's like, okay, that's a really good one. I'm inspired by Sakai. It's a designer from Japan. Her work is beautiful, like the details, every little detail from the zipper to the pleats. And she does like men and women. She does collabs. So I love her. I've been a fan for many, many years. Love her stuff. Those are the two brands that like stick out to me at this moment. What about you, Kenny?
You know what's funny with me? Like, I'm not really like, I love a lot of the modern brands, but I'm always like been a fan of like older silhouettes. Like there's certain eras that I really just was fond about, like the bowler shirts. Like I've always loved bowler shirts. So it's just like, I would go, at thrift shops and I would find them and I'm like, these are dope. It just the silhouette, the style, just me. And it just feels like you can wear it with your chest out and just have fun. It's just vibes.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more about vibes. And like growing up in like the 2000s, like when we had like the academics, the Marc Echos, a lot of those color palettes was something that for me resonated a lot because I'm just a naturally energetic kind of like, type of person. Like if I'm in the room, like I'm moving, like that's just how I am, right? I'm just high in energy. And I think with colors and like certain color palettes, they just speak to me and they're like a representation of me. So for me, that's like my inspiration is just like, growing up in that era, I saw a lot of that going on and it still sits with me, obviously, certain things that sit with me, like certain movies and like how they wore certain pieces, like I could probably still pull off today, right?
They're almost like timeless pieces, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we're in a room full of them right now.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes.
So
I mean, that's like right when you walk in, there's like so many different things, right? They're like from different eras, but they still could be applied and thrown on today and just made like it was
style them.
Just like they were just literally came out of manufacturing today. I mean, it's like vintage is super big at the moment, so
it is. It's a huge thing. Yeah. I know we want to get into like the whole digital fashion thing, and I'm extremely excited to like, even just talk about that. But there's one thing that Karina said was about collaborations. Has there been collaborations in like just the clothing industry that you guys have done with other brands with VALAS?
Not yet, but we are collaborating with these two amazing stylists that we've been knowing for the last 23 for about close to 8 years now.
Really?
Yeah. So they're amazing stylists, amazing people, just amazing individuals, great friends of ours. They style a lot of amazing individuals like Jason Tatum, Judah Smith, and an extensive list of athletes.
That's amazing.
So this is the first time we're actually collaborating.
Kickstarter.
Yeah, this is the first time we're collaborating with them. We're just anybody in general, and it's just really cool to see how here's the thing, like when you present something to somebody, everybody has like input, right? You know how it is with the NFTs.
Sure.
Like everybody wants like, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. So when it comes to like certain individuals that we really respect in their craftsmanship and what they do, it's just like, okay, let's see what you can do. And I think this is going to be the start of something that we continue to move forward with, where we sit down with these stylists that we've grown over the years and created these amazing relationships with, and let them do their twist on like certain pieces and see what comes out of it.
I love that.
That's awesome. I love that as well. Before we move on the subject of collaborations, your dream collab. It can be sneakers, apparel, anything. Doesn't matter.
Right now, I just thought
No,
Nike.
be as ambitious as you
Yeah.
want with this. Actually,
Nike, I mean, how big can you get?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
What about you, Kenny?
Man,
Where would you like to see that smiley face right there? What's one brand?
I mean, naturally, like I'm thinking like Louis Vuitton, Gucci.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say somewhere in that realm, somewhere under the LVMH umbrella
yeah,
or the Kering Group. You know, I think it would be super dope. But I also think it would be like super dope to have like Carlos Santana, do a collab with Carlos Santana. Just like individuals that like I grew up under the household with, that
Sure.
like, my dad brought me into, like, because those hold more weight and more emotions when I think about it. It's just like, it'd be really cool to do some sort of collab with like somebody that meant a lot to, whether it's my father or my mom or like just my family.
It's
I
like
think that'd be super
wrestling.
dope. Yeah.
WWF.
Oh.
Like, I mean, even like to do like a collab with like a Bad Bunny at the moment would
Yep.
be like super huge,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Like certain,
Individuals, yeah.
like, so I would say like someone really cool that meant someone or a lot to us growing up, or like obviously like I said earlier, LVMH or Kering Group brand.
And I think that those stories and, like you said, like the relatability, the passion that you have, the memories that you have, I think all that ties into like the whole mission statement of VALAS that we talked about earlier, right? Like I just think that that's just like a perfect blend. So like those collabs, you know, if the opportunities do come, I think that they it's like a perfect fit.
Yes.
But yeah, I think what we'll do now is just kind of touch on a little bit of digital wearables. I'm really curious. Obviously, Kenny's been involved in NFTs for a long time, right? But I'm not sure how much.
I don't know much.
Yeah, so this is gonna be really interesting.
Yeah.
All right, because I want to get both your takes. Obviously, as someone who's been in the space a while and someone who's kind of watching it from afar,
Right.
like what your thoughts are on digital fashion as a whole, right? Because most people, myself included, when I first thought of digital fashion, I was like, who the fuck is gonna want digital fashion, right? Like, what's the point? But then you start actually doing some research and you start seeing other things that validate some of the stuff that you're reading, right? Whether it's like a partnership between, Gucci and Yuga, or Roblox and Vans and Gucci, or DressX and Warner, and there's all these different like entities, whether entertainment or fashion, that are collaborating to create digital concepts around wearables, and it just kind of makes you feel like, okay, well, the articles say these things, and you're actually seeing these larger brands enter the space. What is this, And I think for us, like, obviously we've been doing the whole closet thing for a while now, and we've always wanted to head in this direction, but I'm curious to kind of like hear from you guys how you see the space, and more importantly, what are your thoughts on how it can impact the growth of your brand and what it just means for maybe sustainability, right? If people start to care a little bit more about what they wear digitally versus IRL, how does that impact sustainable the environment? How does that impact even the bottom line, right? Because you go from maybe selling a product that has a cost of good to a one-time cost of designing a digital asset that's being sold in the masses in volume, right? Obviously you might not be able to sell a multi, even though we've seen skin sell for
Sure, of course,
6 figures, right? But assuming you're going for volume, right, now you're taking that cost out and you have much healthier bottom line. So I'm curious to just talk with you guys about that.
Okay.
And by the way, no, everything's being recorded, so they'll just be
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
For me, like the whole idea of digital wearables is like still the concept I'm trying to grasp, like if people are really gonna buy into it, right? Yes, we see a lot of the partnerships and the collaborations, but then I sit back and I think about what like Fortnite and Call of Duty have done, right? I mean, people are doing skins and they're like, I think 2 years ago, Fortnite partnered up with the NFL.
Yeah.
And in those skins alone, right? I think they made like 50 mil.
Wow.
Like it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's how Fortnite survives. It's through all like the, whether it's the skins or like the certain packages. I mean, Call of Duty, I'm sure they're making close to, $1 billion in terms of like all the purchases that they get through like certain skins and like the certain gun packages and stuff like that. So I do see it when I look at from that perspective, or from that lens, from being like loving Call of Duty and seeing like my nephew, how he loves like Fortnite and stuff like that, and how like he's so like anytime he has like the opportunity to buy a skin or to ask for money, it's always for that.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure he has spent a good amount of money on buying like Fortnite skins and stuff like that. And it's always like that new piece, whether it's like, for us, it's like shoes and like clothing. Now for them, it's like, now I want to get this new skin. So
He's 14, by the way.
Yeah.
Just
so
turned 14, yeah.
I see it in like 2 years, 3 years on the line. And then you look at the numbers and you're starting to see like just the NFT market grow. And then you start to see like Decentraland and like all these meta worlds are starting to grow. And it's important for people. They like, yeah, I still think people are going to want to dress like this, but it just, for me, it's like, how big does like the meta get? If we're spending more time in the meta, I don't really care what I'm going to wear in like reality, what I'm wearing on a day to day. Because if I could look fly in the meta where I'm spending a lot of my
They
time,
want to show up to their friends and, be cool.
So I see where the space is headed to, and I see the importance, and I see where like the value in it for sure, 1000%.
Yeah, I mean, I think self-expression is never going to go out of style, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially for digital assets, right, the better you can represent yourself across these metaverses or video games or whatever the channel is, I think the deeper that connection between that user and that platform or that character can be, right? And I think ultimately that's what everyone wants to achieve, is how do we create that connection so that people feel represented digitally in a way that resembles who they are in real life. And I agree. I don't think we'll see I don't think digital is going to replace physical fashion. We still need clothes,
It's an extension.
but it's an
though.
extension,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the part that excites all of us here, I'm sure, right, is this additional channel that's being created that has exponential potential because, with e-com or even retail, you're limited to, the traffic that you buy. You're limited to the location that, the foot traffic that goes to that location. With digital assets, the world is your oyster and you can transact anywhere instantly. And so I think like there's a really great opportunity for brands to participate. And we're super excited that you guys are part of our little experiment, right? Which hopefully will turn into
We're
a big
excited
success.
too. Like, it's so cool.
Like, so my sis, she's not really involved in like Web3 or just in crypto, like the crypto scene at all. But when I showed her like the idea of what, the tunes were achieving and aiming to do, she was like so all about it. She was just like, that's super cool. Cause I showed her what the tunes were last year, and she's obviously seen my excitement and passion for this space grown exponentially within the last year being a part of this community. She's seen me go to New York, she's seen me go to Miami, and she knows like how much this means to me, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Paris.
Paris.
Don't forget Paris.
Yeah.
So she has seen that passion within me, and like she's excited for me to see that, right? And
I want to support it. It's like, I know I can trust him. And he's like, let's get VALAS involved. They're interested in us. I'm like, really? And he showed it to me. I'm like, let's do it. If you think we should do that, let's do it,
And
That's
even like
awesome.
last year for New York, I forgot the individual's name. He's not really like in the community like that anymore, but he did my current profile pic. He did that last year with that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
With the green hoodie.
With
Yeah.
the green hoodie. And it was just something that I was just like, I wanted to do personalize it for myself. Again, back to that personalization, because, it's like there's two passions of mine, what I work for and what I'm grinding for every day with VALAS, and now the tunes. So it's just like, for me, it was just naturally for me to put the VALAS pieces on him, and it was like part of the collection that was coming out last summer. So it just flowed, and for it to come full circle, and now that was like the teaser was that same hoodie.
That's
with the
great.
Oh, no
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yes.
It's
Same
the
one.
green one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys picked that one out, huh?
Yeah, I don't think.
Wow.
I think Prince picked that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But he was like,
But see, we didn't know this story or like
not at all.
the
Not
meaning
at all.
behind
I mean,
it. for
because
you.
you didn't ask me this probably till late last year. I think it
Yeah.
was like November, December.
Actually, I think Kelly, she's behind the camera right now, but that green one, was that between you and Prince that picked that out? That's okay. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, and we've had, Tatum, Dwight Howard. I mean, there's so many people that have rocked it.
Yeah.
And it's just vibrant. Like the color, like I've always loved that color.
And that shade of green too of it.
Mhm.
It's like
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely a full circle moment to see just how everything kind of like unfolded in terms of like the opportunity and so like again, she was excited to see it. So we're just curious to see how everything plays out and like when we'll be able to get these on the characters.
I know we're super excited, and our community, obviously, like you're such a staple in the community, and you get along with so many people, everyone that's met you, and like these, from all the locations that we just like kind of shared about. So people are like really backing and just really excited for it. I do want to kind of touch though, like on your journey just in NFTs, because you obviously started in Cardano.
Yes.
And I just kind of want to like know a little bit of the backstory of like what kind of drew you into that, then what brought you over to ETH, and just a little bit of the backstory of that.
Well, I've been in like cryptocurrency since I would say November 2017. I was like that peak of that bull cycle.
Okay.
And Cardano was one that just caught my attention. I seen how quickly it rose. Got up to like I think 90. I think it might even broke $1. And FOMOing in. It was just, I just FOMOed in. It was like there I was big on like Stellar Lumens. I was big on, obviously Bitcoin. I had Bitcoin, Stellar Lumens. And I think I had like Bitcoin Cash. So when everything started coming down, I just, bought Cardano, Stellar, Cardano. Tron was another big one that I lost interest in within this last bull cycle. It didn't really perform much. So I was like, you know what? I'm cool. But as in the Cardano sense, that's where my biggest bag was at just over the years of just investing into it. And then when the NFTs came about, I think, obviously the crave of just and the craze of all the Bored Ape Yacht Clubs and, seeing the punks get to where they're at, you're always thinking like, oh my God, let me
get a piece of that. Yeah.
The idea of it, right? You're like, oh my God, like it's, and then you start learning, you start informing yourself, you watch YouTube videos and you think everybody knows everything that you're following. And then I bought into the 88 punks. And I'm like, and I got like rank 89 out of the collection. I could have sold it probably for like 2,000 Cardano when it hit like its peak, which at that time was like 8,000, right? But I didn't sell it. I was like, nah, this is going to get to that. It's going to keep rising.
The next level, yeah.
I'm like, because I'm thinking like they're punks,
Yeah.
they're going to get to a certain point. And that was back in September 21. Then I kept informing myself and just, started following a lot of people within the Web3 scene, within the NFT scene on the Cardano side. So naturally, it was just like the Cardano Ken, because that's where my bags are at.
Yeah.
That's what I was most interested in. And I still love Cardano. I still love the people there in Cardano on the NFT scene. I still think they're going to have a spectacular, bright future. I think it's going to perform really well within the next bull cycle. But my first Ethereum NFT was with I think it was the Goonies. Man, they're like ducks. They look like Sylvester.
Okay.
From the Looney Tunes, right?
Yeah.
And they were super dope. But the team like flopped, man. They still exist. I think another team bought him out, and they're trying to make a comeback. But yeah, they were super talked about, super hyped. But unfortunately, they didn't perform well. I think they're sitting at like 0.02, 0.03. But I do have some high ranking ones there. So hopefully, you never know, within the next year or two.
Sure.
I think with the bull cycle, you're going to start seeing some life come out of these projects. Whether if I could get 0.2 out of it, that's fine with me. When the tunes came about, though, that's when I was like, I'm all in. I've invested in other projects on the Cardano side of things. I've probably tried one or two on the ETH, but yeah, I'm committed. I'm loyal.
Was it like an immediate thing when you seen the art?
Yeah, it was an immediate thing. Like I was so gravitated to the art. I'm like, what is this? Right? I felt the same way about the Goonies gang. That's what they call it. Goonies gang. I felt, because it resonated. It was nostalgic, and it was something that was appealing to me, and it just brought me back to my childhood memory. So that I was like, what is this? Right? And it was like a bunch of Cardano people posting it. So I was like, okay, I thought it was a Cardano NFT at first.
Oh, okay.
And then I started looking more into it, found out it was on Ethereum, and I was like, I started converting, started selling a whole bunch of different coins that I had. And yeah, I mean, I was able to snipe a good amount of them. I minted one because I was just so focused on getting the traits that I really loved and wanted.
Yeah.
And I'm still holding on to those ones. Like the pink fur coat. I got my gold with the halo.
Cameron.
Yeah. So, the iconic ones for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I'm here with the tunes.
It's crazy.
Obviously the last year, like I've grown so far and close to a lot of individuals. It's Vader, you, Prince, Watts, consider you guys all very close, brothers, and I'm here to support in any type of way, man.
And we see that and we feel it as if, like, from the team, and we talk about you, like, it seems like on a daily basis at times.
Yeah.
And just like what kind of value you've brought to us, not only like the community, but just us as a team. And like, you've literally traveled to like every point of the world with us.
Yep.
And, these different installations that we've had, and just like whether it's hanging out with the community or like even in Paris, like you literally worked the booth with us for like an entire day there. And it's like, it's these things that like most people aren't willing to do that stuff. And you're just like, I don't know, like I can't really even put into words like the appreciation that I have for like what you brought to like our community and our team.
Yeah. And I mean, my sister said earlier today, it's like it's all about being present. We're in the car and we're just talking about just being out and about and being present and putting yourself in those situations. You never know what comes out of it. And
sure.
Look at this now. Like, we're sitting down here having a podcast and collaborating on a sense from the closet perspective, right? And the initiative that we guys are doing with that. So like, that was never my intention. I had not one clue that would work. Like, that was even coming. And when it came, I was hesitant. But
he's a natural giver. Like, he loves to help. Like, any room that he walks into, it's like, how can I help? What can I do?
Yeah.
So what was the? We'll get back into like I guess the whole digital fashion. So what was the hesitance from your side?
I think it just comes with like, insecurities. You always, anything that we do. I mean, I could speak for myself. Like, anything that I do, I want like a certain type of reaction. Like, and I think that's sometimes could be a pro and a con. And sometimes I could give a no and something great could have come out of it. But maybe you just feel like in that moment you weren't ready for it. And I think from a brand level, I know what we've done and I know what we achieved. But the community as a whole, they're not informed on that. They don't see that, right? A lot of these community members, just in the space in itself, they want the big swings, the home runs. They don't see other brands that are doing so, especially with like VALAS LA. They're thinking like, oh, VALAS LA, okay, they're coping out, like they're helping Cardano Ken with the brand and everything else like that. So I thought for me that was going to be like the natural reaction that the community would give.
Okay.
So that was the hesitant. Like, I just didn't want to get that negative feedback for you guys and for ourselves as a brand. But after speaking with obviously, close friends that are within the community, they gave me that reinforcement and that support. Like, nah, bro, like, you guys are doing dope shit. Like, look at what you guys have done. Look at the people that you guys are on.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that anyone could say about that or take from you. So that was like an eye opener. Like, oh shit. Like, yeah, like we've done a lot of dope things, right? And because like I feel like we're not at that place where we want to be yet, that sometimes could get in the way of giving like of yourself. Yeah, it's like, it's just like, because I'm not there yet, I'm insecure, like, I can't present myself in this light that we can't be in.
Sure. Yeah. What about,
I mean,
go ahead, Joel.
No, I was going to say, let me tell you right now, you guys are the ones helping us.
Yes.
Because you've proven yourself out over the last 10 years. We're a year old and we're dropping a new product that nobody's even used or even seen. So this is not a handout. If anyone should feel blessed, it's us.
Yeah.
Because we're creating something that it's still a work in progress and you're taking that chance to do it with us.
Yeah.
And so we're the ones that are thankful to you. And I think the community will obviously see that. The team sees that. And so we're very thankful that you decided to be a part of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys.
It's all about community, I think, and it's helping each other out and like giving each other great energy. Like you guys' stuff is really cool. And then we have a brand, so why not? Yeah. And Kenny believes in it so much.
Right.
Yeah, so naturally it's like, yeah, let's do it. It was in no hesitation. Once he presented it to me.
Yeah, she was all about it. She was like more excited about it than me. I'm like, all right, well, yeah, we're doing it.
Wow.
You know,
that's hard to imagine, though. You have a lot of energy. I mean, this guy, he's the life of the party.
You know, like my sister's very particular on anything and everything that she does. Like, you know, so it's just
as you should be, right? You want to protect your brand at the end of the day. You've worked on this for over 10 years. So you're not just gonna give it up to whoever.
Exactly.
Right?
So it's just like me being in it. Like I have a different understanding and a different perspective. But her being outside of like the community and outside of just the space in general, like I didn't know like how she would see it, you know? Yeah. So it was just like, I didn't even have to explain myself. It's like, sis, they're giving us opportunity, you know, to do this and that. Are you down? And she was like, yeah. And then I showed her like some references that you guys sent me and stuff like that. And she was all about it. Yeah. She's always loved the tunes, like the faces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wearing like the clothing, the full body.
It relates to us and the time period.
I agree.
All that stuff that he shows me, I'm like, yeah, I like it.
But you guys are giving us the opportunity. Let's just be clear about that. You know,
it goes both ways, man.
You know, sure. But I think for us, like I said, this is a new product. It's a vision that it's still being developed, and we don't know how the market will react or how the community will react. We know that there's a trend, and it's an obvious one, and it's one that we want to pursue and be active leaders in. But, you know, we're a startup and this is a startup product, and it could do really well or it could completely fail, right?
Yeah.
So you're the ones that are giving us the opportunity to be a part of, you know, to participate. And so, you know, we'll make you guys proud. We'll definitely try our best. I think we have an amazing product. I think the direction is great. I think wearables are the future, especially when it comes to PFPs, because that dynamic element of being able to now take a static image and make it your own, and then potentially make it interoperable where you can use it across like multiple different ecosystems, I think is like where things are headed. It might be a year from now or 3 years from now. We don't know, right? But I think this is the first step. It's like, let's give the community the ability to represent themselves in a more accurate form, and let's use brands that people know and love, and others that people will discover and learn to love, which I think is like one of the really powerful elements of this digital wearables concept is, you know, you don't need to be Gucci and you know, Vans and Louis Vuitton and all of these other brands, right? And even if you look at like Roblox and Sandbox and all these other, you know, ecosystems, they're bringing in large brands. But I mean, most of my friends that I have, you know, they like to wear and dress in things that are not necessarily, you know, by the biggest brands. They like to support the more, you know, cultural, the more niche, the more emerging, you know, styles and brands. And so I think that element has always been ignored in that ecosystem of wearables as it is today. So I think bringing that is going to be a really interesting, you know, idea, and we'll see how it works out. But, you know, we wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for you guys.
In like the NFT space, at least as it sits today, really all we've seen when it comes to being able to, you know, I guess edit your NFT, your character, whatever you want to call it, it hasn't been like IRL brands. It's just been like a trait store that's like a generic, you know, generic traits that are kind of like built under their umbrella of artwork that they already have. It's an extension of that. But this, like bringing actual brands in, and to go back to the whole relatability side of things, like, you know, people already get so attached to their DJ tunes as is.
Yeah.
Just like we've been in this for 14 months now, and you see people that just like they dive for like that PFP, right? But to be able to actually dress it up in the same jacket that you own, right? You own a VALAS jacket or that hat, and now that can be on your character. That to me is what makes like this whole concept that we're building so powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah, it's that connection. And it works both ways, right? Because traditionally you've seen people develop physical product to then claim a digital product. We're kind of doing it backwards, where we're giving you the digital asset based off, inspired by a original IRL design.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're hoping that some of the brands that we collaborate with will allow us to have different utilities across that, right? For some brands, it may be discount based. For other brands, it may be that we place a small PO and then we raffle it, right? So like if we have 50 people with that hat, right, maybe we'll buy a few from you guys, and then if you have it digitally, you can enter the raffle to win one, right? And so like that idea of having the digital first to then aspire to own the physical, I think hasn't been done to my knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually going to be more powerful than trying to encourage someone to buy a physical product first to then buy to then claim the digital one.
Yeah. And with what we're doing with the closet, I think there's so many different opportunities. Like there's, for me and VALAS, there's so many things that we can offer the community. We could do like, if we were, like I've spoken with you and Bader about it, like if we were to create where you could log in with your wallet and you could see all the price, you could see like a discount given to you, and it's not only with the tunes, but like, let's say, imagine like a Nike partners up with like 5-6 different brands. You go into Nike, you connect your wallet, now you have like 10-15% off, depending on what it is, what project you're in, you'll have like 10-15. Well, if it's 20% across the board, it's 20%.
Like a token gated experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there's certain things where we could do like physicals, where we could create VALAS pieces for the GM brand. Like imagine a trucker hat with the same type of Chanel and it says GM within the circle. Those are certain things that we could do, and it's like offer, like we could do it digitally first and then offer the physical portion of it, or you could buy the first part of it, the physical aspect, and then you're rewarded the NFT along with it.
There's so many ways to cut it up.
So many ways.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like we'll start testing different things, and luckily we have that relationship where I feel like we'll be able to test a lot of these things and figure out what works best, and then continue to scale that. I'm also curious about like IRL events, right? And tapping into how do we introduce NFTs? Actually, let's call them digital characters. Forget NFTs.
Yeah.
to some of your consumers, some of your audiences, right, that may not be aware of what these characters are, but maybe as a result of now them having VALAS on them, they might be more intrigued to learn about them. And that's kind of like one of the things that I think, one of the elements that this provides our community that maybe we haven't touched on a lot, is that marketing side of things, where the brand that we're incorporating already has a community. Like you guys have. You have your loyal customers, you have your community of people on social media, IRL, et cetera, who now will have an opportunity to learn about DGen tunes.
Yeah.
We're not saying everyone's going to want to learn about it, but maybe someone will, and that person might be the next Cardano Ken in the community, right? Out of that love and passion for your brand, they come into our community. And so we're really excited about exploring different concepts. I know Shady's been running this like 10 days of drip thing, where he takes like a famous celebrity and puts a tune on their face, and it's like the actual outfit.
Yeah. So
That's
he'll
cool.
like take, for example, he's done like Dwight Howard, the Jason Tatum photo where he's wearing I like to call it pistachio green outfit, and then he'll put like the face of his tune on top of it. So it's
That's
like,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. I mean, it's cool, and who knows, right? Like, he's tagging the athletes, maybe get the attention of the athlete, and it's like, oh, actually, I like this, and now this character's wearing it. Right. What is this, right? Like,
and a lot of those people could already be involved in his NFTs or cryptocurrencies as is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Celebrities
for
in general
sure
that are into the NFT scene for sure, 1000%.
Totally.
And it goes both ways though. It's like cross pollination. Like, we have a community, you have a community, and it's just like, and that's another thing from like your end, like you have a really strong community with the tunes, like one of the strongest communities, if not the strongest community when it comes to like the NFT scene. So that in itself puts you in a very positive way of presenting yourself to a lot of these different brands that you're partnering up with. And it fits a certain lifestyle, right? Like there's a good majority of tune holders that will naturally rock VALAS, and vice versa, right? So it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, if it's a natural fit, why not? Like, let's introduce our audience to this because it correlates with this type of lifestyle, and why not present your audience to this brand, because again, it fits that lifestyle that they're already living within.
Totally.
No, I agree. And here's maybe me asking you for some advice, right? You know NFTs and you understand the concept of digital wearable. I'm having a lot of conversations with brands that I think would be very appealing to our demographic, just, based on what we know and see. But there's two challenges. One is most of them don't understand or even know what the blockchain is, so much less NFTs, right? And then you got to explain the whole concept of digital wearables and dynamic NFTs and how that's some sort of, viable opportunity to gain more distribution and eyeballs and etc. So what do you think would be the best approach as brand owners, right? What are, it's interesting because you know about NFTs, but you don't. So
okay, so how would someone like me, how would it
So let's say
me?
if I was going to come to you with this concept,
yeah,
you had no idea what it was, and I'm saying, hey, I want to put your clothes digitally on my characters. And by the way, I have this strong community. I have, these are some stats, my engagement and blah, blah, blah. And, what is going to appeal to you? What's going to hook you to want to learn more? And then on your side, knowing what we're actually doing, what do you think are some things that brands want to hear? So you guys could
go first.
Sure. Okay, I don't know if I'm understanding the question correctly, but what comes to my mind while you guys were talking, how can a person like me be interested in, NFTs, and all that stuff? And I was thinking like, it'd be so cool to do like a collab, like say with a brand like us, and having the character on one of the hats. And inside the hat, there's a sticker that you scan or something, and it takes you directly to that. So not only are we both winning, but you're introducing all your characters to our type of clientele, because they'll have like a scanner that they can go directly to the whole world of it, and then vice versa. But like, I think for a person like me, that's how it would be appealing to me.
We were talking about this yesterday, actually.
Like, it would be like, what is that character? So cute.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Like, and then it has a sticker. It tells you where to go, and it just it simplifies everything.
But here's my question, right? You're the one that makes the physical product. So why would you gamble creating a product with my brand when you don't really know much about it? What can I show you, or what do I need to give you to show you that this is a viable option for you that's going to bring you, I don't know, maybe more exposure or revenue? Like, what is going to make you say, yes, I would need to do this?
I think once Kenny showed me the world and the characters, and explained to me what it was, and I seen the passion behind it, then I understood it. And I was like, yes, I want to be part of this. Let's have VALAS be part of it.
Understood.
So it just has to be explained to different brands.
Do you think that there's an appeal there for, like, do you think, are you, and this, there's no right or wrong answer, right? I mean, you're a business owner, so, reach, impressions, conversions, right? Sales, those are important things to the brand.
Right.
So do you feel like that those are, things that should be a part of the conversation?
Yes. Definitely.
Or is it more just cultural?
I think cultural, and also a bit of that, the numbers.
Got it.
Like the analytics side of things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, it's a tricky situation, I think, because a lot of these brands, and you guys being a year in the game, right? Fairly new still. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like Web3, you're old. Like like 70.
Ancients, yeah.
Right? It's like beyond dog years.
Dog years.
1 year is like 10 years in the
For
Web3
sure.
scene. So like being in the Web3, things move fast, but when you're looking at it in the IRL perspective, like D's and Tunes, you guys like are barely exactly. You guys are babies.
Huh.
So I think timing itself and being here and doing like cool storytelling and taking advantage of the opportunities that you guys have now with the current brands and using that right now. Like, okay, how can we use VALAS? How can we use Sensible? How can we use the shoe company that you guys partner up with as well to create some really dope storytelling, right? Use this as your
Proof of concept.
Right? And you bring it to them and they see it. Because what you've shown me from a artistic and like presentation of it, it's dope. But now they want to see more beyond that, because you got to understand they're probably presenting things that look dope
all the time,
right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like things like credit, right? You got to build your credit over time, and that's the thing. There's certain things you can't skip. Yeah, you can't skip. You can't fast forward. It's just time is the only thing that will get you to that point. And I think during that time, you create what you can and do it to like the best of ability that you can. And when the time presents itself, the people are going to start coming to you. And that's the reality of it, you know? And then there are going to be anomalies, or like one of every 20 of those home run swings that you're going to hit a home run.
Sure.
But don't be afraid of the no's, right? Present it to everybody and anybody that you can get it with. And if one lands, that one is going to be the one that takes you. And it's going to be your gateway to everything else that you see.
Yeah.
You know? And that's one thing for me. It's just like, I've always been scared of no's, but it's just like, now it's the time where it's just like, you got to be fearless and just keep doing, elevate, learn from every single no that you got, and just keep moving forward. That's all you can do at the end of the day.
100%.
You can't let it just stall you out, right? And I think that's for like the tunes, like time and being creative, and what we have now is going to give you that ability to get that yes 6 months from now, a year from now. And that's how I'm looking at it, because I get it. Like Web3, people want now. But in IRL, that's not how it works. You know, if there's certain brands that already are far ahead and ahead of the curve, and they know what this Web3 space is, they see the importance, they see the opportunities from a monetary standpoint, a cultural standpoint, and they value the culture of Web3, they're going to get in front of it. And whoever that is, you know, who did the Moon Runners do it with, or Space Runners?
Balmain.
Right? And
huge.
And because they see the future. So it's just like, how do you find those? How do you get those individuals? Right?
Yeah.
So it's just like putting yourself out there. That's it. And just, again, shooting your shot. And someone's going to say, yeah. And that, I'm telling you right now, if it's done and executed properly, it's going to be the gateway to all the other ones that you wanted.
I totally agree. We're definitely not shy of shooting our shot. We're definitely aiming as high as you can think. But we also want to bring a lot of dope cultural emerging brands. I think that's like one thing that the space hasn't really focused on a lot. And to us, I feel it's very true to our community, our demographic. It's also true to our journey. We're a year old. You know, we want to bring other people along with us for this journey. We want to be able to grow with our partners. I'm not saying I don't want a Gucci as part of it. Of course I do.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that should be the only focus. I think we can bring up other really cool, relevant brands that participate and together build a really strong ecosystem that introduces those brands to multiple people and, you know, together, you know, build unique experiences.
Yeah. And like building GMGN, like it's the storytelling aspect of it, right? Like you want to create and create this energy that's vibrant, that gets to the point where it's like, you're going to notice it. There's
it's like infectious.
Right. There's going to be a point where it's like people are going to gravitate. It's getting so big, and like the vibes are so there, like the cultural aspect is so there, whether it's through like merch or apparel, or whether it's like through the party scene, and like doing this podcast is going to be this is about consistency, doing it, and it's going to get to the point where people can't avoid it, and they're going to see it, and they're going to notice it, and they're going to take it, and they're going to reach out and get more info on it, you know, and see how they can work with you guys.
Yeah, I definitely think consistency is the key, right? And I think even from like a creator standpoint, we know we're not going to get 1 million views overnight on our podcast or anything that we do, right? But I think that consistency over time is what you need to be able to be successsul, right?
Yeah, consistency is always going to win.
Yeah.
And that's at anything. It doesn't matter if it's media or marketing. It doesn't matter if you're just building a brand.
Life.
Life in general.
Consistency and resilience.
Yes.
Like you got to be resilient. You got to be consistent, man. You got to show up every day. That's the reality of it. Man, it's crazy. Because, I mean, if we're not consistent with what we do, people forget. That's just the reality of it. And that's why it's so important for us to now produce even more on top of, like, spring, summer, and fall, winter. Now it's like, all right, let's find ways to feed in between those.
Sure.
Because people are like, okay, see it, they buy it, they wear it, on to the next.
Yep.
So it's like, how can we always be there for that person?
Consumerism at its finest.
Yeah.
Man. American way of life. Question though, back to fashion real quick. What do you think of European fashion versus like American streetwear, and like, do you see any differences in the growth of those two sectors? Do you feel like Americans have adopted European fashion a little more than the Europeans have with American streetwear, or do you think it's like about even?
Give your perspective.
Well, a lot of the European brands are so, I don't want to say developed, but they've been like family owned for decades and decades and decades. And there's so much money behind it versus a lot of American brands are upcoming, they're new. So I feel like there's so much money with European companies that they're able to develop all these different units, all these different SKUs, all these different fabrics. So it's in America it's a newer baby in it.
Right.
So we're getting there. I don't think we're there yet. And yes, Europeans have like adapted like the hoodies, the jeans and all that from us, you know? So I just think it's two different worlds, but we can trade things.
Right.
You know, we can trade things.
I mean, I think everything's at this point is like globalized, right? Like if something's trending in here in like LA, it might
social
be,
media,
it might be trending in Paris as well.
Sure, it makes sense.
Because everything's just interconnected, and that's just the reality of it with social media, just making that even more to what it is, you know, 10, 12, or how we grew up, you know, it's one of those things where things travel in a minute, seconds, right? So I think it mixes, to be honest with you, like, especially with like the streetwear scene. I mean, come on, you see all the big brands, right?
Yeah.
From the designers that they're bringing in.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Americans.
A lot of Americans,
yeah, that's true.
You know, so it's just like it's getting big and it's getting adopted. Yeah, I mean, and then with fashion and anything, everything is cyclical. Like it comes in cycles. You know, I'm sure the hoodies are starting to get played out now, so people are starting to move more into like the nicer things, more a little bit more dressed. The pants now are getting bigger, so it's just like
90s.
Everything is cyclical. Everything goes and comes and goes and comes, but it's just like if it comes back, like how do you make it your own? And if it goes, then you got to be again fluid and
nimble.
Yeah,
aware.
That makes sense.
Anything else you guys want to touch on? I mean,
yeah, well, it is 4. I know you had till 4. We can cut this, but we'll just do like a quick intro or outro, sorry, if you guys want, and if you guys want to wrap up.
Unless there's anything you want to mention specifically or any questions you want us to ask you, we're happy to like.
No,
nothing like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to the community.
For sure. I guess with that being said, Ken, you know, it's always a pleasure, man. I always value when we get some time to just sit down and talk. And I'm glad we're able to share your story that you have with your sister. And I'm really happy that we finally got to meet IRL. And I just want to, you know, thank you guys for taking those couple hours just to kind of spend with us today and kind of sit down here on the podcast and just share the story and share the vision. And I wish nothing but, you know, the best for the future for both of you.
Thank you so much. I feel like you guys have like a great partnership, and Kenny's so excited about this, and it makes me excited too. Like, okay, what's the future?
Sure.
How can we collaborate, and how can we make this, you know, run smoothly for everyone?
Absolutely. No, thank you guys for coming, Karina, Ken. You know, it's a pleasure to have you guys participate in the closet. It's a pleasure to have you here and hear your story. You know, I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people in our community. You know, I love that you guys are brother sister team. You know, your focus on family, I think, is so important and so touching to a lot of people, right? To see that's still a core value that people hold nowadays. I think it's very important to spread that message, and I think you guys are the embodiment of that. So very happy that you decided to join us today.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for giving us the opportunity. I mean, it's an honor for us to be, you know, I mean, officially you guys were like the first collaboration in terms of working with someone outside of like what we do daily, you know, and to see it come to life in such an organic way of just being there and supporting one another, right? With whatever it is that was, right? Just showing up for one another. And I think it's just a testament to, again, just doing the things you love and things will come out of it. you know. So I'm thankful for you guys and thankful for the opportunity, just being like paying attention and being supportive of your community, man. So thank you guys. And yeah, man, thank you for sitting today. And shout out to the whole Tunes community. I love you guys. My LA crew, my Europe crew, everybody, man. So
Miami.
Gotta just show up.
They're all over for sure. And if anyone wants to find VALAS online, where's the best place to find you guys?
www.valaslosAngeles.com. I know we got a big Twitter presence with like the Tunes community. So if you guys are on Instagram, definitely check us out on Instagram as well, VALAS Los Angeles. You'll see a lot. That's where our presence is at, is Instagram. I mean, we don't have a Twitter for VALAS LA. I mean, that's probably going to be changing really soon. But definitely come check us out and see like what we're doing, all the people that we're on, things of that nature.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Cool.
All right, we'll wrap it up then.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh.